She said it with the same tone you'd use to order a sandwich, casual, sterile, transactional. I think I've grown in a different direction. 21 years of marriage condensed into a sentence you'd find in a self-help audiobook. I watched her talk like she was narrating someone else's story, hands folded neatly on the kitchen counter we picked out together, next to the chair I built with instructions printed in Mandarin. No tears, no yelling, no mention of another man, just growth. I nodded, not because I understood, hell no, but because I knew there was no point pretending like I had a vote. She'd already made up her mind, so I signed the divorce papers. No argument, no hesitation. She blinked when I slid them back across the counter like I was paying for takeout. "You're taking this well," she said, studying me like I was a specimen. "We're friends now," I said, parroting her own damn words. "That's what you wanted, right?" She smiled. "Exactly. Friends." Within 6 days, my phone pinged. "Hey, can you help me assemble the IKEA dresser?" I didn't respond. 2 days later, "My car's acting weird again. Do you think you could take a look, or maybe split the repair?" I replied with a thumbs up emoji. That was it. Then came the midnight text. "I'm just overwhelmed. Can we talk for a minute?" No response. I didn't ghost her. I wasn't cruel. I was polite. Dry toast polite. The kind of polite that makes you question whether you were ever close at all. When she finally called me out on it, something like, "Are you just being petty now?" I replied, calm as a still lake, "We're friends, Mara, not a married couple." That's when it clicked. Her version of friendship had conditions. I wasn't her husband anymore, but I was still supposed to be her handyman, her emotional sponge, her backup wallet. That was the fine print she assumed I'd overlook. Here's the thing. When someone walks out thinking they're doing it on their terms, it never crosses their mind that you might be reading from a different script entirely. And since you're already here, if this story's got you hooked, even just a little, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. More than 97% of listeners don't, but it genuinely helps us keep doing what we do best, telling stories that matter. Thanks for sticking around. Back to Mara. She wanted a clean break but left the door propped open, assuming I'd loiter just outside like a loyal retriever. What she got instead was silence. That silence? It wasn't bitter, it was intentional. I sold the house without dragging my feet. Everything was divided neatly, per the paperwork. No back and forth, no drama. I didn't even try to negotiate who kept the espresso machine she swore she'd never learn to use. Take it all. Take the stupid mugs too. I moved out the same week. No goodbye dinner, no memory tour of what used to be our place. Just the sound of keys dropped on a granite counter and a hollow silence where the dining table used to sit. I found a modest condo across town, painted the walls gray, bought a secondhand couch, and left social media altogether. Vanished, basically, but not out of spite, just to breathe. And the thing about disappearing is, it makes you impossible to predict. That's what started gnawing at her, because for all her talk of different directions, she thought she'd still be able to track mine. She assumed I'd grieve, mope, maybe post cryptic quotes on Facebook. Instead, I slipped through the cracks like I was never there. She wasn't prepared for that, not even close. She assumed I was sulking. That's the word she used when talking to her sister on speakerphone. Forgot it was on, probably. "He's just sulking. He'll come around." Like I was a toddler who didn't get dessert. What Mara never understood, and likely never will, is that sulking requires hope. It requires wanting someone to notice you're upset. I wasn't hoping. I was removing. I listed the house the morning after I moved out. Didn't waste time repainting or planting fake flowers in the yard. Just clean photos, priced right, sold in 6 days. I let her take whatever she wanted. She didn't even ask for the wedding album, just the Vitamix and the velvet chair from her reading nook, which I knew she hadn't sat in for years. I didn't argue. I even hired the movers for her. Sent the invoice to myself. We split everything clean. No clawbacks, no lawyers, no sob stories. I found a place across town, a one-bedroom condo with thin walls and ugly carpet. But it was mine. No scent of someone else's lotion in the bathroom. No second toothbrush lingering like a question. And then I vanished. No more posts. I deleted Facebook, locked my Instagram, stopped tagging myself anywhere. No birthday calls, no Thanksgiving texts. I didn't even answer when her mom sent me a holiday card with "Still Family" scribbled inside. That's when the questions started. Through mutual friends, I heard she'd begun asking, "Has anyone heard from Thomas?" Like I was a lost cat. A week later, she called. It was past midnight. I was reading a book I wouldn't have had time to read when we were married, because I'd usually be listening to her talk about her co-worker's drama while pretending not to yawn. I watched the phone light up. Just her name. No message. I let it ring until the screen went black again. The next morning she called again. I picked up this time, not to be kind, just to hear her tone. "Thomas," she said, clipped and tight, "you're really not going to answer when I'm stranded?" "You're not stranded," I said. "You have roadside assistance. I paid for the policy." She went quiet, then sharp. "Is this how you want to play it now? Just ignore me? Be petty?" I looked out the window at the streetlights, the silence, the tiny new life I was building piece by piece. "You chose freedom, Mara," I said, calm as a surgeon. "I honored it." She sputtered a laugh. "That's not what this is." "No," I said. "What this is space. And unlike you, I take that seriously." She hung up. I didn't. I just set the phone down and made a cup of tea. She wasn't used to it. The distance, the lack of access. For over 2 decades, she'd known exactly where I was, how I felt, what I'd say before I said it. Now, nothing. I was a blank page, and blank pages are terrifying to people who spent their whole lives writing scripts for others. I stopped showing up to the familiar places. I skipped the old cafe we used to go to on Saturdays, changed gyms, even swapped grocery stores. Mara was still orbiting the same world, but I'd already slipped out of gravity. That's what frustrated her most. It wasn't hate, it wasn't revenge, it was absence, cold, deliberate absence. And for someone who loved being the center of attention, even in my life, that was the one thing she couldn't spin. Brunch was Mara's stage. It always had been. Mimosas, curated complaints, the perfectly timed punchline about someone's ex-husband's new girlfriend looking like a clearance mannequin. She'd mastered the art of casual superiority, a queen holding court over shakshuka and lemon ricotta pancakes. Her circle, real estate agents, yoga instructors, a burned-out pediatrician, nodded along and practiced rhythm, but that Saturday, she wasn't ready for what came from the next table over. "Yeah, he looked good. Relaxed, honestly." Mara didn't catch the start of the sentence, just her name, spoken not with concern or pity but curiosity, from the wrong mouth. Ashley, her oldest friend, maid of honor, godmother to their dog, for God's sake. Mara didn't even turn her head, just kept slicing her avocado toast like a guillotine. Her ears, though, sharpened. "He was at that opening last Thursday," Ashley continued to someone else. "You know, the one at the art co-op downtown. Thomas was there. I almost didn't recognize him. He just looked happy." Mara's hand paused mid-cut. Happy? Ashley must have felt it because her voice suddenly shifted. "Anyway, did you guys try the blood orange mimosa? It's better than last week's." Her own table kept chatting, unaware, but Mara heard nothing for the next 5 minutes. Her coffee went cold. Thomas, art gallery, relaxed. Since when did he go to gallery openings? He used to groan when she dragged him to modern exhibits, claiming he'd rather watch paint dry than stare at it in a frame, and now he was strolling around some artsy co-op like a downtown regular. "Who were you talking about?" Mara asked, voice casual but tight. Ashley blinked. "Oh, Thomas. I ran into him last week." Mara forced a smile. "How nice." Ashley nodded, then tilted her head. "He seemed good, Mara, like good." The air shifted. Mara gave a short laugh, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Well, I always said he had potential once he stopped sulking." Ashley opened her mouth like she was going to say something else, then closed it, just nodded again and turned back to her salad. Mara didn't eat much after that. She picked at her plate while her mind replayed those words. He looked good, relaxed, not lonely, not lost, not devastated, relaxed. Something sour pooled in her stomach. It wasn't supposed to be like this. She was the one who left, remember? She was supposed to feel liberated, like someone who cut dead weight loose and found herself floating higher. She'd expected guilt, maybe even remorse, but not this nagging sense that she'd made a mistake she couldn't name. And jealousy? That wasn't part of the plan. The next day, she did something she hadn't done in months. Opened the photo folder labeled Us. Not to reminisce, she told herself, just to check, to remember what he used to look like. There he was, standing stiff at a beach in 2017, tie crooked at a wedding in 2019, smiling with tired eyes at Christmas 2021, all familiar, all hers. But then her mind conjured up something more recent, something she hadn't seen but could picture now. Thomas, in some half-lit gallery, hands in his pockets, laughing at something clever, looking good, looking relaxed, and maybe worse, looking like he never needed her in the first place. That image stayed with her long after the brunch ended. It happened on a Tuesday, one of those throwaway days where nothing is supposed to matter. Mara had just come from a self-care facial that left her cheeks red and her mood worse. Her heels clicked along the pavement as she headed toward her favorite cafe, the one she and Thomas used to visit every Sunday before the grocery store run. She hadn't been back since the divorce, not because she was avoiding it, she told herself, but because it was inconvenient. Except today, it was convenient, and apparently, so was he. She froze mid-step outside the window. Inside, beneath the soft Edison bulbs and smell of cinnamon croissants, stood Thomas, laughing, like full belly, eyes closed, teeth showing laughing. It stopped her breath. Then she saw who he was laughing with. Ashley. Same Ashley who used to text Mara weekly with screenshots of questionable dating profiles. Same Ashley who cried after her divorce and called Thomas too vanilla to tempt even a nun. That Ashley. They didn't see her. Not through the reflection-heavy glass, not through the crowd, not through the twisted irony of it all. But she saw them. Thomas leaned slightly forward. He used to do that when he was interested in what someone was saying. His hands rested on the edge of the counter, knuckles relaxed. Ashley's body was tilted in, one elbow resting on the table, eyes soft, the way she used to look at Mara when they shared secrets that would never leave their circle. Only now, the secret was Mara. They didn't hold hands, they didn't touch, but the space between them was intimate, unspoken intimacy, the kind you can't fake, the kind Mara knew all too well. She walked away fast, didn't order coffee, didn't look back. That night, around 10:42 p.m., after an hour of pacing, one glass of wine, and half an internet search on signs your ex is dating your friend, she sent the text, "We need to talk." His reply came 6 minutes later. About what? We're friends, remember? No emoji, no warmth, just the knife of her own words, turned with surgical precision. She stared at the screen. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, then dropped. What was she going to say? I didn't mean it like that. I didn't think you'd move on, at least not with her. There was no dignified version of any of it. And Thomas had always been quiet, but now he was composed in a way that made her itch, like he'd been planning this moment, not with malice, but with strategy. Suddenly all those little things added up. The art gallery Ashley bumped into him at, the quiet admiration in her tone, the way Ashley had dodged brunch last week. And the silence. Mara had thought she was in control, that she could navigate this new chapter with grace, keep Thomas nearby like a friendly ghost, harmless, nostalgic, occasionally helpful. She never imagined someone else would invite that ghost in, offer him a drink, and maybe even let him stay the night. And worst of all, she couldn't prove anything. Not yet. But she knew. In her gut, in her pulse, in the sudden rage that burned behind her teeth. There was something happening, something she didn't authorize, and it was happening without her. It began with silence, not the dramatic kind, just the slow, suffocating kind that fills in where voices used to be. The group chat started drying up. People took longer to reply. Mara would drop a joke, and instead of the usual flood of laughing emojis or sarcastic retorts, she'd get a thumbs up or worse, seen at 2:17 p.m. She noticed it first with Nicole, the Pilates instructor who used to overshare everything from dating disasters to botched Botox appointments. Now Nicole was so busy lately, always just heading into class. Then Kelly, her brunch ride or die, stopped tagging her in Instagram stories, stopped inviting her to the stories, period. Mara tried brushing it off. Seasonal burnout, Mercury in retrograde, whatever. But she knew better, because even though no one was saying it, she could feel it. She was becoming optional. She began probing for information the only way she knew how, gossip disguised as concern. You seen Thomas lately? She asked Nicole, feigning lightness. Nicole blinked. Oh, not really. He's around, I guess. What does that mean? Mara pressed. Nicole shrugged. He just seems lighter now, happier, like he's finally breathing. Then she caught herself. Not that he was suffocating before or anything, just, never mind. That sentence repeated in Mara's mind like a broken washing machine, like he's finally breathing. She started to spiral, especially after Ben, her new boyfriend or whatever he'd been, ghosted. It wasn't sudden either. It was slow death by 1,000 texts. He had seemed so into her, charismatic, tall, a little too into crypto, but she could handle that. Until one night at dinner, when she vented, just vented, about Thomas. I mean, the man refuses to pay for the car repairs, she said, swirling her wine. He just walked away from 2 decades like they meant nothing. And now he's running around with Ashley like he's some kind of Renaissance bachelor. Ben had gone quiet, checked his phone. You okay? She asked. Yeah, he said, but he didn't mean it. That was the last real dinner. 2 days later, he was crazy busy. Then, not sure I'm in the headspace for anything serious. Then nothing. Mara stared at the message thread, scrolling through her own words unanswered, and realized something horrible. She was losing traction. Not just with Ben, with everyone. At a party the following weekend, hosted by a friend of a friend she once would have considered beneath her, she felt it like cold air on bare skin. People smiled too politely. Their conversations curved away from her like water avoiding a rock. No one asked how she was. No one complimented her dress. One woman, a former brunch companion, actually said, "Didn't expect to see you here," and not in a good way. Even Ashley's name had changed tones in people's mouths, not quite reverent, but no longer the butt of jokes, more like respected. And Thomas? He was becoming folklore. I heard he's doing something with a startup now, someone said near the bar, not knowing Mara was within earshot. Yeah, and didn't he redecorate his place himself? Totally changed the vibe. Mara turned, wine glass frozen at her lips. Thomas redecorated? Thomas couldn't pick a throw pillow without Googling color psychology, but apparently now he could. The control she once held, the invisible grip on people's perceptions, her position in the social pecking order, even the narrative of her marriage, it was slipping, not loudly, not dramatically, but like sand through her fingers. No one had come out and said it yet, but Mara felt it in every glance, every non-invitation, every awkward pause in conversation. She used to be the sun. People orbited her. Now she was just space debris, drifting. The invitation came through text, like everything fake-friendly does. Ashley, hey, having a few folks over Saturday. Backyard, wine, jazz playlist, super low-key. Would love to see you. Bring whoever. It was a trap. Mara felt it in her gut. The emoji was too cheerful, too rehearsed. Ashley never hosted low-key anything. Every event she touched had curated candles, Instagrammable charcuterie, and a playlist that suspiciously matched her latest breakup mood. But still, Mara stared at the message longer than she'd admit. Why now? Why her? Maybe Ashley felt guilty. Maybe she wanted to smooth things over. Maybe, just maybe, there was nothing going on. And this was her way of showing Mara that she was being paranoid, delusional, or maybe Mara just needed to see it with her own eyes. She showed up 45 minutes late on purpose, fashionably delayed, but not enough to be disrespectful. The kind of entrance you plan when you want people to notice you but think you don't care. She wore a black linen dress, simple, clean, mature. She even brought a bottle of that overpriced red she knew Ashley liked, as if she was saying, "See, I'm still the generous one here." Ashley greeted her with open arms and a faux warmth that smelled like guilt. "Look at you," she beamed. "That dress is gorgeous. Come in, come in." The backyard was glowing, literal fairy lights strung through the trees, mismatched vintage chairs, a small jazz trio playing live near the garden path. Of course it wasn't a playlist. Ashley had hired musicians, super low-key, right? And then she saw him, Thomas, by the drink table, sleeve rolled up, handing someone a bottle opener with that quiet, careful smile she remembered from 1,000 dinner parties. He looked at ease, not faking it, not trying, just still, like a man finally living at his own pace. Their eyes met across the crowd. He nodded, nothing more, no smile, no invitation, just acknowledgement, controlled, polite. Mara nodded back, felt her throat tighten. She wanted to say something clever, to walk over and ask about the wine or the jazz or the damn fairy lights. But she couldn't move. She stood by the buffet for most of the night, clutching her glass, watching them orbit each other like they'd done it forever. Ashley brushing past him with a wink, Thomas refilling her glass without needing to ask, laughing at the same beat, leaning in at the same angle. It wasn't loud, it wasn't romantic, it was worse, it was natural. Mara waited until most guests had left, some lingering near the fire pit, others collecting half-empty wine glasses and murmuring goodbyes. She found Ashley alone in the kitchen, rinsing a cheese knife. "You two looked cozy," Mara said, voice low. Ashley paused, dried her hands slowly. "Meaning? Don't play stupid. You and Thomas." Ashley took a breath. "We're seeing where it goes." The words hit like a car that doesn't screech before impact. Mara blinked. "Seriously? You said you wanted to remain friends with him," Ashley added, tone steady. "That's what we're doing." Mara scoffed. "So this is what friendship looks like now? Stealing from your oldest friend? Ashley looked her dead in the eyes. You divorced him. You walked away. He didn't. Mara opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Not because she lacked words, but because the wrong ones were flooding in. Ashley stepped past her. I didn't plan it, Mara, but I'm not apologizing for it either. And just like that, Mara realized this wasn't betrayal in the way she understood it. It wasn't knives and secrets and cheap perfume. It was time and presence and her own absence. She'd walked away and assumed the world would stay frozen, that Thomas would wait on the edge of the stage while she figured things out. But he hadn't. He stepped off, walked around, and found someone who clapped without being asked. And Mara? She was still waiting for a curtain call that was never coming. It started with a subscription renewal notice, one of those old shared services neither of them ever canceled, some digital photo cloud they hadn't used in years. Mara took it as a cosmic excuse. She messaged him, "Hey, random question. Do you still get charged for Shutterbox? I think it's linked to your email." He responded 6 hours later. Just canceled it, all good. No small talk, no warmth, just a surgical reply. A few days passed. She tried again. I think I have a tax form with your name on it. Want me to drop it off? Email's fine. Then silence. But she wasn't done. It wasn't that she wanted him back. At least that's what she told herself. She just didn't want this. This version of him. Distant, unbothered, worse, content. So she pushed harder. We used to walk every Saturday. I miss that, just as friends. This time he didn't reply immediately. The read receipt taunted her for hours. But finally he wrote, "Sure, Saturday morning, Lincoln Park?" It wasn't a yes or no, just logistics. But Mara took it as a window cracking open. She showed up early, too early. The park was dewy, quiet, still shaking off the fog of early spring. She wore the jacket he once said brought out her eyes. She even brought coffee, his old order, black with a splash of almond milk. He arrived 10 minutes late, looking like he hadn't given a single thought to the occasion. Hoodie, running shoes, clean but casual, like he was headed to the grocery store after. "Morning," he said, polite as a barista. They walked in silence for a bit. Mara filled the space with idle chatter, a new coworker, her mother's latest drama, the weather. She laughed too loud at her own jokes, nudged his shoulder once, too familiar, too soon. He chuckled once or twice, but never stopped walking. Then she tried to pivot. "I'm glad we're doing this," she said. "It's nice, familiar." He nodded. "You remember the pond?" she asked. "You always used to throw in that one rock, said it kept your luck steady." He nodded again. "Still do." They reached the old bench, their bench really, the one they used to claim like it had their names carved in it. She sat, patted the spot beside her. He sat too, briefly. Mara placed the coffee cup between them, his cup. "I remembered." He looked down at it. "Thanks." Then she reached out, just casually touched his forearm, the way she used to when she needed him to listen closer, or to forgive her. "I miss this," she said softly. "You, just us, no pressure." He smiled, small, kind, but not warm. Then he checked his watch. "Ashley's waiting. Just that, nothing cruel, nothing defensive, just final." He stood up and walked away with the same calm gait he used to walk beside her with. Mara stayed on the bench. The coffee between her hands went cold fast, but she didn't drink it, didn't toss it either, just stared at it. A paper cup filled with everything she thought she could salvage. She'd spent the whole walk trying to sound like herself again, like his Mara, but somewhere along the path, she realized he wasn't trying to match her steps anymore. He was walking at his own pace now, and she was no longer part of the route. The silence wasn't loud, it didn't announce itself, it just crept in like fog. First was Ashley. Mara had sent a text the morning after the walk in the park, just a light message, nothing accusatory. "Hope we're still good. Miss our coffee catch-ups." The text delivered, was read, never answered. She waited 3 days, then followed up. "Did I do something?" Nothing. Then Nicole stopped liking her posts. That was strange. Nicole had once liked a photo of Mara's salad with a caption that read, "Monday Reset." She was the type who double-tapped anything with filtered lighting or brunch aesthetics. But now, crickets. Then came Clara. Mara DM'd her a meme about dating apps, something they always joked about. It sat unread for a week. Then Mara checked again. Blocked, blocked, not muted, not ghosted, blocked. It wasn't rage, it was erasure. And it wasn't just digital. She walked into her usual boutique one afternoon and caught the tail end of a conversation behind the counter. Her name, Ashley's name, and Thomas's name in the same breath. The clerk, who used to greet her by name, now just gave a polite nod and turned away. Mara tried to shake it off. People get busy. Friendships ebb and flow. Maybe Ashley was overwhelmed. Maybe Clara's account was hacked. Maybe Nicole just had algorithm issues. Right? She told herself all of that until the networking event. It was a women in business mixer, the kind of thing she used to dominate. Wine in hand, heels clicking, compliments flowing. She wore her power blazer. She knew the lighting in that venue. She even rehearsed 3 icebreakers. 10 minutes in, a woman she vaguely knew from a past consulting job, Andrea or Angela, something like that, walked over. "Hey, didn't your ex just close that deal with Lumantra Tech?" Mara blinked. "I'm sorry?" "Thomas, right? I swear I saw a photo. Ashley posted it on LinkedIn. Big win. Some kind of sustainability contract. They looked thrilled." There it was, delivered like a passing weather report. Ashley and Thomas, posed, smiling, professional caption, corporate victory. Mara forced a faint smile. "Oh, yeah, I heard something about that." Angela or Andrea nodded and drifted off. Just another moment. Just another bomb. Mara barely moved for the next 10 minutes. She stood by the charcuterie table, pretending to examine a slab of brie she couldn't taste. The hum of the room muffled around her. Everyone else was laughing, networking, handing out cards, and she, once the center of that world, was just background. She left early. No goodbyes. That night, she sat at her kitchen island and pulled up LinkedIn. There it was. The photo. Thomas in a tailored navy suit. Ashley in a white blazer, hand on his arm. Caption, "So proud of this milestone, big things ahead." Comments flowed underneath. Likes, praise, even one from someone at the city council. Her finger hovered over the like button, then scrolled away. She clicked through Ashley's profile. It had changed. New job title, new affiliations, new circles. Mara's name wasn't on any of them. She sent one last message. "Can we talk?" Unread. She looked around her apartment, clean, minimalist, expensive. A designer lamp cast soft light on a custom rug. Everything she once thought screamed success now felt like furniture in a very elegant waiting room. Her phone didn't buzz. No one checked in. There were no fights, no explosions, just omission. People weren't slamming doors. They were closing them quietly and locking them from the other side. She waited until the ache outgrew her pride. 3 glasses of wine in, sitting cross-legged on the floor of her bedroom with the LinkedIn photo burned into the back of her eyes, Mara dialed the number she hadn't called in weeks. Not a text this time. No pretense. Just the raw, naked sound of a phone ringing. She didn't expect him to pick up, but he did. "Hello?" His voice was exactly the same. Calm, steady, familiar in a way that didn't offer comfort anymore. Just contrast. She wasn't the only one who could hear it. He sounded like someone who had built a new life and left the door shut on the old one. She didn't ease into it. "Why her?" There was a pause, a long one. She could almost hear him exhale, like he wasn't surprised she was calling, just disappointed it took her this long. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, not unkind, but surgical. "You never saw me." She blinked. "What?" "You looked at me for 20 years and only saw what you wanted. Someone to support, to stay steady while you reinvented yourself again and again. Someone you could keep on a leash without calling it that." "That's not fair," she said quickly, the crack in her voice betraying the fight she didn't want to have. "I didn't say it was fair," he replied. "But it's true," she swallowed. "You could have told me you were serious about her, about Ashley." He laughed, not cruelly, just softly, with disbelief. "You told me we were friends," he said. "Friends don't need announcements." The line went quiet. She could hear her own breath, sharp in her throat. "I didn't think—" She trailed off. What was she going to say? "I didn't think you had it in you. I didn't think you'd move on. I didn't think you'd find someone else and actually be happy." He didn't fill the silence. She tried again. You really moved on, didn't you?" He didn't answer, and somehow that hurt more than anything he could have said. She didn't cry. Not right then. She didn't scream or plead or ask for another chance. The truth had already happened. All she did was hang up, slowly, carefully, like the phone had become hot in her hand. The tremble came after, not just in her fingers but deep down, like something inside her had finally accepted what the rest of her had been fighting. It wasn't about Ashley. It wasn't even about Thomas. It was about how easily she discarded the man who stayed when she was impossible to stay with, and how quickly she clung to the people who'd never really held her in the first place. The memories began to shift, recolored, recontextualized. All the times she'd brushed him off, The eye rolls, the jokes at his expense in front of friends, the way she'd taken his patience as passivity, his loyalty as laziness. And Ashley had noticed, not stolen, not seduced, just noticed. Mara curled up on the edge of her bed, the room around her somehow too clean, too curated, a museum of a life that didn't have a soul in it anymore. She didn't have the man who held her through 2 job changes, a failed business, a family breakdown, and a year of therapy she made him pay for. She didn't have the friends who clapped at her jokes while slowly stepping away the moment she stopped being interesting. All she had was the echo of his words. "You never saw me." And now, for the first time, she did. Too late. The laughter reached her before she saw them. Mara had taken a different route home that night, cutting through the old downtown strip to avoid the supermarket she and Thomas used to shop at. She wasn't looking for anything, just air, just movement, the kind you hope clears something out. And then she heard it, soft, familiar, full-bodied laughter rolling out of the open doors of a wine bar. She turned, instinctively, and there they were, Ashley and Thomas, sitting side by side at the bar, leaning in as another couple across from them recounted something clearly hilarious. Thomas had his hand resting casually on Ashley's back, his head tilted just enough to suggest ease, not possession. He looked younger somehow, not in his face but in the way he moved, relaxed, engaged, whole. Mara froze, not out of anger, not anymore. There was nothing sharp left in her, just the dull ache of being replaced by something better built, or maybe not better, just appreciated. She didn't go inside, didn't stand in the window like some tragic movie character waiting for him to glance up. She turned, walked the long way home. The streets were mostly empty. Her shoes clicked against the pavement and every step felt like a question answered too late. She passed a closed bookstore, a shuttered florist, a lit-up yoga studio with silhouettes moving in sync. Everything still moved, just not for her. When she got home, she didn't bother with dinner, just uncorked a bottle of wine she'd been saving for some occasion, poured it into a chipped glass, and sat in silence on the couch. Her phone sat on the table next to her, screen dim. She picked it up and scrolled, not to find something, but to feel something. Anything. She ended up in the old thread, the one with Thomas, their last real exchange before it all went dark. His message was still there. She hadn't deleted it. Couldn't. Friendship, Mara, doesn't mean comfort. It just means no hard feelings. She read it again and again. At the time, it felt measured, fair. Now it felt cold, like a door gently closed, locked from the inside. Not to be cruel, just to keep the peace. She tried to imagine what she'd say if she replied now, something poetic, acknowledging, apologetic. But what came to her mind instead was a single image, him laughing, not with her, not at her, just without her. And she realized, closure isn't some neat ribbon you tie around your regrets. Sometimes it's just watching the life you once built walk past the window, smiling and knowing it doesn't look back.